Peace, peace, peace. Yeah, we going into the Declaration of Independence today. I was reading this document recently and I said, wow, this is a powerful document. I never really, read it like that, you know what I'm saying? Like we always hear like little quotes and stuff like that, we, hold these truths evident that all men are created equal and all that. We always hear the little quotes, but I read the whole document and I said, wow, this is some powerful stuff being spoken about in here. So anyway, let's go into it. You know what I'm saying? It's like understanding the structure of governments and what governors or governments can do, and how power is in the hand of the government, how the government can become corrupted and so forth, and how the people, have the right to basically, protest the government for their grievances and so forth, for address of grievances and things of that nature. So let's go into this. Is real deep though. Okay, so it says the Declaration of Independence, action of Second Congressional Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous decision, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. So this is at the time where they had the 13, states or colonies. So it says, when in the course of human events, it is necessary, part itself. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes in which impels them to the separation. So in other words, saying that, you know, um, the powers, of the earth, they have separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the nature and of nature's God entitle them. So in other words, your rights and everything, your equal rights are by nature, and that's separate from the state. So, saying they're basically breaking down the science of their understanding of separation of the state and, the church, or people's individual acknowledgement of, you know, the supreme being. So it goes on to say, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they changed that pursuit of happiness to the pursuit of property. And you think about it, you wonder why a lot of people are not happy nowadays, because they're in the pursuit of property instead, or materialism, instead of the pursuit of happiness. And that property or materialism doesn't necessarily make them happy. So they're not in the pursuit of happiness anymore, they're in the pursuit of property. So and just a sidebar for the gods, when you go into the knowledge build degree, when it says, you know the meaning of civilization, one having knowledge, wisdom. What is the meaning of civilization? Answer: one having knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, refinement, and is not a savage, semicolon, pursuit of happiness. A lot of times people be speaking that mad fast and be like, and is not a savage in pursuit of happiness. No, it's not it doesn't say. It says, and is not a savage, semicolon, pursuit of happiness. So the pursuit of happiness is one of the definitions of civilization, the pursuit of happiness. So let's continue. So to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, derive their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. And no institution, new government, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on the principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So right, so their safety and happiness. So the people have the right to be concerned about their own safety and happiness. You know what I'm saying? Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And according all experience has shown that mankind more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the form to which they are accustomed, but when a long train of abuse and usurpations pursuing invariable the same object invents a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right and their duty to throw off such government and provide a new guards for their future security. So in other words, saying like if there's like a evil tyrant and it says like mankind disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms in which they are accustomed. So in other words, like if there's something that's going on and people are suffering, and then they're saying that the government is refusing to abolish the forms in which they are accustomed, like in other words, like change up some of the things that you're accustomed to, so that you may be able to not have so much heat and not have usurpations and things of that nature taking place because they're showing an equality with the people. So continuing, such has been the patient suffering of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter from their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain and his history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. Okay, it says. Okay, so it says he has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. So in other words, it's like saying like, he has forbidden governors to pass laws of immediate pressing importance, like what's going on right now. The governors are trying to pass laws pertaining to that, but he's suspending in their operations till his assent should be obtained. Like in other words, until he decides to come around to it, then then it'll get passed. You know what I'm saying? And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to obtain them. To attend to them. So like, you know what I mean? It's like not really worried about anything else, but I guess what he has going on. He has refused to pass other laws for accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right admissible, inestimable to them, and formidable to tyrants only. So like that type of behavior is like, done by tyrants basically. Um, he called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. So, in other words, like let's say you got governors in different states and whatnot. If they want to get a law passed, they got to go all the way to Washington. You know what I'm saying? Washington D.C. and all of that to the Capitol building or whatever, and petition their bills, whatever the case may be, and so forth, right? So that's kind of fatiguing if the people got to go way to the Capitol building, you know what I'm saying, which is a distant, far from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. So they'd be like, well, you just got to accept the laws that we have, unless you want to come all the way here to the Capitol building and do this and do that, then, hey, just rock with what we got. So that's, it's kind of fatiguing for the people to go way to Washington and all that. Right, so anyway, he has dissolved representation, representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasion of the rights of the people. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasion of the rights of the people. So in other words, when the people have like other representative houses, you know what I'm saying, that they have, houses they want to represent certain things, there's an opposition with firmly, and, with manly firmness, you know what I'm saying, which is an invasion of the people, the rights of the people. So it's like, like, for example, like, like, let's say, you part of a whatever organization and you're trying to voice your opinion in an organization, and then somebody just gets, as they would consider maybe manly and, loud and overtalk you and just overlook your opinion because that's their way of basically, I don't know. But let's continue. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected. Hereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. Right. So, they're going to be, if that's the case, then they're going to have, like, attacks coming from the outside and have things going on in the inside. I guess because of the lack of the participation of the states. So, let's continue. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose, obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land. Like, yeah, like Trump was like saying he was going to build that wall, try to keep the Mexicans out. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't want the Mexican people to come over here and be a part of the U.S. and all of that. He trying to build a wall and all that to keep them out. So yeah, that's like preventing them people from coming over here. That's the purpose of obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to engage their migration hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land. So the Mexican people can't come over here and be part of this corporation, which they trying to front like it's a government, but it's actually a corporation. You know what I'm saying? You can even look up the definition. United States is a federal corporation by definition. Facts. You know what I'm saying? It's a corporation. It's not an actual government. They fronting like they're a government, but it's a corporation. In fact, they call the United States Service Corporation. You know what I'm saying? In fact, that's the actual, service corporation, whatever. But anyway, so all right, so he has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent of laws of establishing judiciary powers. So the courts, that's dealing with the courts. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges depend on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected, like I was thinking about that, right? Remember how Trump he was setting up all them Supreme Court judges? Like Trump was playing chess. You know what I'm saying? Like shit is chess, not checkers. He was playing chess. So he was trying to all them lawsuits that he had, all them indictments he was trying to bring on them people for that child trafficking and all that stuff they was doing. He was setting up the judges in the Supreme Court. So therefore when he was ready to bring in all them indictments, he would have the judges he needed in office to make them lawsuits go through and be in his favor. You know what I'm saying? Or them indictments and all of that. Like when you talk about draining the swamp and all of that. You know what I'm saying? But in this case, it says he has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges depend on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent of the superior to the civil power. He has effected to surrender the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and acknowledged by our laws, given his assent to their acts to pretended legislation. So when I hear that, I think about Joe Biden, how this dude, like I keep saying, he's selling us out to China. He's selling us out to China. He's combining with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution. You know what I'm saying? And acknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. You know what I'm saying? So he fucking with the ops, basically. You know what I'm saying? Now look what Trump was trying to do. Like I said, playing chess, not checkers. Trump was trying to get together with Putin to stop Putin from getting together with China. Now that whole Biden is sold out to China, now China and Russia has now got a chance to link up now. And they wanted to prevent that because they see those two super world powers coming together. That's what's going to bring about this whole World War III shit. You see what I'm saying? But people ain't paying attention. It ain't like, even if the people are paying attention, it ain't like none of the people can do nothing. It's the people that's in charge, the so-called government. You know what I'm saying? So, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, they always rallying up the soldiers and all of that. You know what I'm saying? It says for protecting them by mock trials, for punishment for any murders which they should commit on inhabitants of these states, the indigenous people, you know what I mean, for cutting off of trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent. Yeah, man, government always trying to say, well, some taxes without our consent. Like, yeah, well, we gotta tax you for this and tax you for that. And, like, come on, man, get out of here, man. Anyway, so for depriving us of any cases of benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretending officers offenses, excuse me, for abolishing the free system of English law in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so to surrender it once an example as a fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies. So, for taking away our charter, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures, and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, raged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. Tulsa, Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? Black Wall Street, you know what I mean? Remember that shit? You know what I mean? Anyway, that's the only time they ever dropped bombs on American soil was on the people that lived here. What kind of shit is that? You know what I mean? Anyway, he is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely parallel in most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, who known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. So they're trying to call the so-called Indian savages. You know what I'm saying? Like, really? Like, who are they to pretend like they civilized and call somebody else savages? Anyway, but basically they're causing excited domestic insurrections among us. You know what I mean? And endeavor, and like even going back in the days, how they had the so-called natives going against the so-called Africans, or who was actually Moors, had them going against each other and so forth, when actually those so-called natives were actually Moors. You know what I'm saying? The indigenous, ones were actually Moors. A lot of them got mixed up with the European, and then came under different breeds and brands and all kind of stuff. And then you had the $5 Indians trying to claim that they was native when they wasn't, and all of that type of stuff. Um, so yeah. So in every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose charter is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. All right, so let me run that back. It said, our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attention to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. And notice they spell immigration with an E. The immigrants with an E are the ones that came over as like sharecroppers and stuff like that, indentured, and so-called indentured service and stuff like that. Those were those ones. The other immigrants were the ones that were just came over by naturalization and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? They were naturalized and given citizenship and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But the other ones, the E, it was like a contract for them to come over here and do what they do. Just like, they say they came with the Treaty of Peace and Friendship and all of that. That was a contract. So we have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our own common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They have been deaf to the voice of justice and consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denotes our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. Oh, that's about that Treaty of Peace and Friendship, right? But it says, hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. So if we in war, you enemies. If we in peace, then we friends. So therefore, the representatives of the United States of America and General Congress assembled, appealing to Supreme Court Judge of the world for rectitude of our intentions, do in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies solemnly publish and declare that these United States colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all alliance of the British Crown. Well, that's a lie, because we are still under that Cestui Que Vie trust, which is basically making us all legal entities under the British Crown. So, that's not all true. So, So, they say this will be free and independent states which absolve all allegiance from the British Crown. But like I say, this is SKV Trust. They still got us under that. And that all political connections between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. And that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states do. Independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Ooh, see that right there was a spiritual trust right there, y'all. Now we talk about the spiritual entity, spiritual trust. It says, and they summed it up in like just that sentence right there. And for the support of this declaration. So, oh man, this is so deep. Oh, I gotta put that right there in my joint. So it says, and for support of this declaration. So this was a declaration of trust right here. Support of this declaration. This is a declaration of trust. But hold on. Yeah, the Declaration of Independence was the spiritual trust entity in which they started off. We hold these truths evident that all men are, created equal and endowed by their creator, the rights and all of that are unalienable rights, in which are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So that's all endowed by the creator. And the state don't have the right to take that away from you. Like I said, that's why in the Constitution they changed, or in the Declaration they changed, or in the Constitution rather, I say it might say life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, but in the Declaration it says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You saying, but they change happiness to property because they know that the state owns all property. So they say you have life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. Yeah, be in pursuit of property. Think you own some shit, not knowing that you need to have a spiritual trust, a spiritual declaration of trust in which you place all your property, in which the not the owner is the deity or your the supreme being that you acknowledge. They own everything and they're the beneficiary of it. You're just the trustee or the minister or steward that administrates it all based upon the biblical or Quranic principles or whatever the case may be, whatever your philosophy or holy teaching is. So anyway, it says, so this was their declaration, supported this declaration. This was a declaration of trust with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, meaning that it was in divine providence, so it's protected by their creator. We mutually pledge to each other our lives, fortunes, and our sacred honor. So our lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. So they pledge to each other. It's a pledge that was made under a divine protection, and it was declared through a declaration. That's a spiritual trust right there, y'all. That's a spiritual entity. What I be talking about, all these videos I'm talking about spiritual entity, that right there, right in that sentence right there, it broke it down. You know what I'm saying? So just pay attention. Y'all putting y'all onto some insight of things. So anyway, this was the Declaration of Independence. Now it says signed by order in behalf of the Congress, John Hancock, President, attests to Charles Thomas, Secretary or the Secretary at that time. And then over here they got the states that signers of the Declaration of Independence. So these are the states or the colonies that signed on to it at the time. So you had Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Massachusetts, Delaware, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania. So you had those states that signed on to it, and then you got the Constitution down there. I'm gonna go into that another time. That's real long, but yeah. So this was so understand the Declaration of Independence was the spiritual entity, the spiritual trust that was created, and then the Constitution of the United States of America. This is the declaration. This is the Constitution that established the state. So you got the state, and through the Constitution represents the states, and the Declaration represents the spiritual trust. You know what I'm saying? Or the so-called church. So when I be showing y'all about the document, how to develop a spiritual entity, it shows you how to develop your church, your temple, mosque, synagogue, whatever you want to call it. If you're a Buddhist, it's called a vihara. You know what I'm saying? What have you? And you develop that, and you basically base it under your principles pertaining to that theology. And then with that, you're able to, whoever the minister, pastor, teacher, whatever for that particular mosque, church, synagogue, whatever, cave, temple, whatever, that person will be able to own property, put it in his name, and so forth, things of that nature, and da 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 da. But the church does not own it, nor does the trust own the estate that's in the trust per se. It's all owned by the creator. You know what I'm saying? And it's just administered by the trustees or the stewards, aka ministers. So anyway, that's been the Declaration of Independence, y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed that right there. Very deep document. You know what I'm saying? Y'all should look into that, look over it again, read it for your own mind, and get what you get out of it. You know what I mean? I was just sharing my thoughts on it. And I'll build with y'all another time. Peace. Peace around, do Allah in the building. Peace.